Implausible Nature now has dice. That's right, you can get these awesome D6s made by our partner Baron of Dice. These custom dice have the Implausible Nature logo on the 6 side and also come with square corners, which means they will roll more evenly than rounded corner dice. Head on over to baronofdice.com and use discount code IN40K to get a discount on your order and support us at the same time. Check out his full collection of dice for all your gaming needs with the link down in the description. Welcome to Implausible Nature, your home for all things Black Templar. On today's video, we are talking about the top 10 units that you should consider in every Black Templar's list. So, much like our previous iteration of this, which was it's actually a top 15 list, we decided to trim it down, just go with the top 10. The way that we want to go about this is these are not in any particular order, but these are units that you should consider anytime that you build a Black Templars list. You should be thinking about these units and whether you want to include some of them in your list. So that does not mean, though, that the units not on this list aren't good. There are plenty of good and even great units in our codex now, with all the points drops and everything like that. There's a lot of units worth considering. These are just the top 10 best cream of the crop units that you should consider for every list. We do have a couple of honorable mentions that we're going to go over first. First up for this is surprisingly the Redemptor Dreadnought, which was a staple of our previous list. I think it didn't quite make this list this time around, simply because it's just there's a lot of other units that put out a lot of firepower, as we'll get into later, and the Redemptors tend to get in today's meta with all the very high damage, high strength shots out there. They tend to get focused on, and they tend to get blown off the table pretty quickly. It's not to say that they are bad in any way, shape, or form,
Mhm.
but they are certainly still a good unit, just not quite there anymore.
Yeah,
What do you think?
absolutely. They have like a ton of shooting, obviously, still. And then nothing's changed as far as that goes. A lot of Black Templars players have kind of soured a little bit on the random number of shots on the plasma, but
I
even
sure
still,
have.
average is you're getting 3.5 shots per turn with it. But I think going into the meta that we're going to be seeing, especially with Iron Hands and uh, uh, Dark Angels running Raven Wing and a lot of heavy weapons, they're going to be targeted quite often.
Mhm.
Um, but that, again, we're going to be using Uphold, so they have a little bit more durability. But I think there's just some better units out there right now that can fulfill a similar role that you know that will fulfill a similar role. So
Yeah,
uh,
exactly. And I think too something that is worth considering with them that maybe make them a little bit less of a target is, and I know Bob doesn't really care for this option, but I think it might be viable now. Is taking the Hog, the heavy onslaught Gatling, instead of the plasma. It synergizes a little bit better with its other shots. It can be more of an anti-infantry thing. It may be focused on a little bit less because people are apparently very afraid of plasma. So yeah, something to consider. In any case, moving on, a favorite unit of mine, which I think is a very good unit. However, it's not a unit that you can just slot into any list, and that is sort of what we were going for with this top 10 list, and that is the Assault Centurions. They took a little bit of a ding of durability with the loss of Armor of Contempt. I still think they're very good, but they do require an apothecary. They do require an investment into them in order to make them worth putting in your list. It's not just oh, I'm just going to pop Centurions into this list. You're really kind of, if you're putting sense in your list, you're going to be building your list around them. Um, so, um, so yeah, so honorable mention here for them.
Yeah, there's still a great unit. Like Alex mentioned, they are expensive still. They did take a cost reduction by getting the free Hurricane Bolters, even though they went up 5 points each.
Yeah,
They ended up getting a net reduction.
just yeah,
Uh, but you still have to, if they're 300 points a pop, and then if you add Crux Obsidian on there, it's 315
which you
points,
should.
which, yeah, you're going to, and then you're going to have your apothecary. So you're still looking at a fourth of your list
Hmm.
approximately in this unit. And when you consider this with all of the other units that got massive cost reductions, it's kind of a hard take, you know. So there's a lot of units that compete with this style, and there really isn't anything in the codex that does what they do. So if you build around them, great. They do have a great output on them and can go against vehicles and elite units, and that's something that we have a severe lack of, that units that can do both. So
Hmm.
they're still a great unit, but it's you have to really build around them,
Right.
and they work with both moments again, so
That's also a plus. Yeah.
that's a plus.
All right. So let's get into the list proper, the top 10 list. Bob, what do you want to talk about first?
Well, let's just start right at the top of the biggest winner, I think, of the entire list. Honestly, Inceptors, Plasma
Yep.
specifically, are the unit that you're probably going to see in every Space Marine list going forward until they get nerfed again.
Well, that didn't age well, did it? Hey guys, future Alex here. Letting you know that GW nerfed the Inceptors so fast we didn't even have time to finish our video touting them as one of the top 10 units in the game before they are now bottom feeders once again. I guess that's a good thing because we have, otherwise, you'd have been listening us blather on for several minutes about how great they are, only for them to just be absolutely garbage. So, in any case, we just wanted to let you know the unit that we're going to fill in Inceptors for will be Centurions. And I know in the video we talk about how that you really need to build your list around them. And yes, you still really need to build your list around them if you're going to take them. But they fit into the top 10 as the next best unit available to us, and are worth considering in every game. So, in any case, back to past Alex. All right. Moving on, another unit that got significantly better, cheaper, really, is Terminators, and we're just talking about all flavors of Terminators here. Assault Terminators, the Thunderhammers became free. The Relic Terminators, all their gear became free. Even tactical Terminators are potentially worth considering as well, because their gear became free. You can get a free missile launcher with them. And then, yes, the Sergeant can only take a power sword, but you know what? We have the Sword of Judgment that we can put on him instead. For 1 CP. So, Terminators of all flavors, they did go down, obviously, in durability a little bit because of the loss of Armor of Contempt. But we're going to be running Uphold, like we said, most of the time. So they're going to have that mini transhuman, and Thunderhammer Storm Shield Terminators are basically still rocking Armor of Contempt with a 1+ save. So, uh, you know, absolutely. Really, really good units now for them. And You cannot go wrong. They're 165 points for a 5-man Terminator squad of any variety.
Yep.
You cannot go wrong just sticking a 5-man Terminator squad in your list.
Yeah, these things are just like ridiculous, especially with the Thunderhammer and Storm Shields. Like, the cost reduction is just massive.
Hmm.
These things are your toolkit to deal with elite, uh, all of your vehicles. It can take out even just infantry if you want to, but I would recommend taking one of your units, at least one, maybe even two, in a 5-man squad of Lightning Claws so you can deal with infantry, or you
Hmm.
can do like Lightning Claws on the Sergeant to give you some extra attacks there to do it. for like the guard matchup, the breachers and Tau, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So you can kill some chaff with them and still be effective and keep making sure that you kill that unit. But the great iconic unit, massively, massively buffed due to the reductions in cost by having not to have to pay for the war gear. You're going to be
Yep.
seeing a metric ton of these as well, especially in the Dark Angels. Uh,
Yep.
so be prepared for that. You have to be able to do damage 3, or else you're
Yep.
going to have a tough day.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, moving right along here, we've got a another one of our favorite units. A lot of people, didn't believe us that this was a good unit before the points drops. I sure hope they do now. Art of War was like, hey, nobody's talking about these. Nobody's talked about this yet. We did, right here on this channel, the day after the points drops. We're talking, of course, about Sword Brethren. These guys just have an absolute metric ton of free options now uh, for 22 points a model. So for a 10 man, 220 point unit, you're getting 2 Thunderhammers, 2 double Lightning Claws, 4 Pyre Pistols, 2 Plasma Pistols. You can take a pair of axes if you want to, and that's just obscene for what you get, and all power, and the rest power swords. Um, they're absolutely fantastic now, in my opinion.
I don't even know why there is even still an argument out there. I still see people arguing against them.
Yeah,
Why? I
yeah,
don't get it.
I don't either.
You just need to like
You just
drop
need to
it, look
try.
objectively at the unit and
Yeah,
say, what am I getting for 22 points a model?
yep.
And it's outrageous
They
what
have
you're
three
getting.
attacks base. They ignore the passion of the vow, so they can get in cover and get a +1, to their armor save, or a -1 to be shot at through dense. You can double stack vows on them, not caring about what the passion is. You can also give them their exploding hits strat. Um, the other thing that I love about them is they have combat squads. So
Mhm.
if you're going to take 10, always take a 10 man. Do not take 2 5s. And the reason is you can combat squad them however you want. If you take 2 5s, you are stuck with the default loadout, which is one lightning hand, one thunderhammer, one lightning claw, et cetera, et cetera. If you take a 10 man, you can split it up however you want. So you can
Yep.
have 2 lightning claws in one group, the 2 thunderhammers in another group, however you want to do it. It's they're so versatile. Um,
Yep.
they are absolutely amazing.
Yep. I would highly recommend them be comboed with the unit that we are going to be talking about next.
Which,
Because, but in general, they are a great unit. Um, yeah. I just, I can't really say much negative about them anymore.
yeah,
Durability, you don't want to have them out in the open, obviously, but that's really like everything.
anything
And
Space Marine.
and one of the things that they are now even good with them is like they don't need stratagem support. You have it, but a lot of the comparisons with other units are like, well, you can use this stratagem. We don't live in a stratagem based world right now. We don't
Yeah,
have the CP. Stop talking about stratagems.
yeah,
We need units that are effective by themselves.
yep, absolutely. So speaking of the unit that they pair really well, what unit is that, Bob?
The impulsors. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Imagine that. Who's been using them
Imagine
for a while? I don't know. Just a little guy from Implausible Nature.
that.
Yes, I have not been in tournaments, winning tournaments with them. So I hear that already. I'm sorry I have children. I am not able to travel. But I do play against tournament players and have been very effective this combo. And it only got better. It only
Oh
got
yeah,
better. These
oh yeah,
guys
it did.
have the ability to get free war gear on it. Just that alone in a basic Space Marine army
And a
would
points
be
drop.
good.
And a points drop. They went down to 100 points base.
Yep. So that you would be saving. I think it's 120 or no 30 points a model already
Yeah,
just by themselves. But even
yeah,
better than that, we could put a multi-melta on it, giving us an extra 20 points of free
Yep.
war gear. For 100 points, we get a
Yeah.
multi-melta. We get the missile, the Bella, the
Bella
Bellataris.
Bella Castus.
Yeah, the Bellacastus missile
I had to look
launcher.
it up because I didn't know what this thing was. Bella something, and I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
So I had to look it up.
Two Stormbolters, transport capability for 6 guys. So I'm looking at you, Primaris Sword Brethren, with
Yep.
character support.
Yep.
So not only can you transport your thing to get it where you need to get the additional firepower, it's durable. I mean, impulsors are fairly durable actually, especially when you if you're in a
Especially
hold.
of hold. Yeah.
So then it has two Stormbolters for chaff clearing, two, and then the missile launcher has 3 different shot profiles, so you can make it anti-infantry or you can have anti-tank shots
Or an Icarus pod.
or an Icarus pod, and you combo that with the multi-melta for 100 points.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. The
So
guys in Art of War are talking about running a list with like 6 of these.
yeah, I mean,
So they're
I think it might have legs. It legitimately might have legs.
yep. I don't think I want to buy 6 impulsors, but I'll be able to take 3, and I think that'll be fun. And I definitely am going to be taking 2 in several of my lists. So yeah, absolutely great unit. All right, so moving on, another unit that I really like. Bob's a little cool on, but I think that they're worth considering in every list. They're easy to slot in, and that is the Gladiator. Now, specifically, uh, I do not like the Lancer. I know Art of War was gushing over the Lancer. I'm sure we're going to hear about that. They're gushing over the Lancer. Honestly, I think the Lancer is still garbage. Yes, it's stupid cheap. It's 125 points, but the same points, I'd rather take a Storm Speeder, or 10 points more and get a Thunderstrike. Um, that
Or
have more shots
eradicators.
or Eradicators, right? So, I think the other two, though, the Valiant and the Reaper, are really good. The Reaper just puts out an absurd amount of shots for 150 points. And the Valiant is a good anti-tank. And again, both of them can get a free multi-melta because we're Black Templars.
Yep.
So, and you might as well take the Icarus pod, which is also free, and the auto launchers, which gives them the smoke screen keyword, so they can pop smoke and take a -1 to hit, which is great because when we're in uphold, we're not getting a cover from dense. So for 1 CP, you can force your opponent to take a -1 to hit, which is pretty important. So um, I like these a lot. I think they're easy to pop in a list as some fire support, and they're cheap enough now that if they get focused on and die, well, you know what? Now they're not shooting your impulsors, which are really doing all the real work in the list.
Yeah, as Alex said, I'm a little bit cooler on them, but I still think they're a great unit with the points drops and the warrior options. I just think because impulsors, it's a little bit different with the impulsors because the impulsors have something in them, and their firepower is just like incidental, but still significant.
So good, yeah.
But with the gladiators, even though they do have like a ton of guns and they do work, I feel like we're going to be going into a vehicle heavy meta
Yeah,
where there's going to
that's true.
be a ton of anti vehicle stuff. And the thing with the gladiators is you're going to have to get the shots, which is going to competing with the rest of your list that's trying to advance forward to the middle of the board. And on a reasonably uh, filled board with terrain, you may not get the shots that you like with it.
Yeah,
But
they are tough 8, and if nothing else, they're a distraction card effects.
yeah,
So,
so I feel like they're still a good top 10 unit though.
yep. Next up, we have a unit that we're kind of the opposite on. I'm a little cooler on this unit, and Bob really likes it, and that is Aggressors.
Yeah, I think these things are going to be a powerhouse in a lot of our lists. They're basically a poor man's Centurion. So so as We haven't really talked about boarding actions, but they're also going to be really, really, really good in boarding actions. But in our standard games of 40k, you have a Gravis armor that has a ton of shots for 165 points if you're going for that 5-man unit. They all have power fists on them as well. You can play the Emperor's Will game with them. You can advance and use the shooting.
With
They have
no penalty. Yeah.
with a no penalty on them to get to the center of the board quickly. So that's a thing. 18-inch shot with the bolters, which was my preference over the flamers, because again, I don't want to have to rely on stratagems for my units. And if you're taking the flamers, it's a 12-inch range, and if you're rocking the center of the board, you may not have an opportunity to come in uh, something to shoot it. Or they're throwing elite units at the center of the board, which is typical. You're playing the hardest units in the center of the board because you want to take it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of secondaries that really kind of run around with that the center of the board. So you're not going to have like a big infantry block typically in the center of the board.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a
but
lot to like. They're 30 points a model. They have a ton of shots. I hadn't thought about the Emperor's Will. That's a good point. They're able to make good use of that stratagem to advance and shoot with no penalty. Um, they're Gravis, so they're reasonably durable. They're going to have uphold most of the time, so that'll give them an invulnerable save, which they need badly. And they're no slouches in melee either. One thing to note is you cannot give them the Fist of Balthus. They do not actually have Power Fist. It's like the Bolt Storm Gauntlet something or other is what it's
mhm,
called. It has a different name, so you cannot swap it for the Fist of Balthus, but it basically has the same exact same profile as a Power Fist. Um, so um, so
yeah,
yeah,
and they're great users of like Crux Obsidian, which is when I said 165 points, I was including the Crux Obsidian in the cost of that. So normally they
hmm
would be 150, but yeah, throw Grimaldus behind them and watch
yeah,
watch
give them a
people
feeling of
cry.
pain. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So another unit that I think a lot of people have cooled on, but we have not, is the Vanguard veterans. A lot of folks are like, "Oh, they didn't get any points drops. They're not worth taking anymore. They're too expensive." They're really not. They're just as good as they were before. They did get some points drops. Their Thunderhammer and Power Fist costs went down. They get free Power Swords, so that means, if you're rocking the Sword of Judgment, or maybe you've already got that in another unit and you want a Relic Blade, those are all free. So they did get a few points drops. They did go up a point per model. But here's the thing is, yeah, so the unit cost may have basically evened out to what it was before, but we have so many more points in the list now. These guys fulfill a role that we don't have from any other unit.
Yep.
The only other unit that we're going to be rocking regularly that has fly is Inceptors, and they suck in melee. They're the opposite. They're the shooty flyers. These guys are the melee flyers, and they are still just as good as they were before. Just because they didn't get massive points drops doesn't mean they're a bad unit now or not worth taking.
Yeah, I agree. You really kind of hit all the points on them. They're still a great unit. Fly is essential. They're a great trade unit. They always trade up in whatever they attack, especially if you arm them to, properly. Whether it be Thunderhammer, Storm Shields, or Lightning Claws, you're probably going to be switching your double Lightning Claws to Lightning Claw in Storm Shields. So sorry about that, but that's probably the world that we're going to be
Not
going.
me. I never switched them back to begin with, so I'm looking good.
So that's where we're kind of at with them. But yeah, they're still great. Uh, a lot of my lists are probably still going to include them. My trade unit list does not take them anymore, but they're still great. Um, yeah.
Bob, have you let Vanguard veterans into your heart?
Oh yeah, I definitely have. You should see my case. I got like 40 of them, and that's
For
not including the 10 that mysteriously vanished at my commission painter.
well, That's a story for another day.
Yes.
In any case, Bob, tell me about our next unit.
So the next one is going to be our Eradicators. Everyone knows what Eradicator is. We all know the power level of it. But this one is even better now because now we get free Heavy Melta and Multi Meltas. So for 135 points, a 3-man unit, we are rocking out a ton of Melta. So, Gravis, we have Stratton support if you want it, but again, doesn't need it. You get a ton of anti vehicle, a ton of anti elite, with comboing with strategic reserves. These things are going to be monsters. So I would say they're almost as good as the Inceptors are when you consider strategic reserves, because these things can pop off on the side of the board. Um, Hopefully within range of things, but 24 inches is a pretty good range with the stratagem, or sorry, strategic reserves. Yeah, they're going to be great. You're really probably almost not all lists, but almost all lists are probably going to be wanting to take these at least one unit, just simply because we know that we're going to be seeing a lot of vehicles out there right now, and
Yep.
you don't get much better than the Eradicators at taking up vehicles. Let's just be honest.
They were great before. We were always promoting Heavy Melta before. It's, was worth paying the points for it before. Now it's free. Okay. Yeah. Just a good unit got better. No surprise that happens with free war gear. So, Arads are not going anywhere. They are still a top tier unit for us. So yeah. And we've got our last down to our last two now, and unlike our other top 15 unit, we are actually including troops in this list because while a lot of people are like, no more troops, who cares? I don't need troops anymore. Um, we disagree. I think troops fill a vital role, and we have access to several excellent troop choices. So, first up, a staple, a longtime staple of Bob's lists, we've got Phobos Troops. We lumped them together here
Yes.
because they are both very similar, but also serve different roles.
Yeah. So starting off with the infiltrators, these guys, we're going into infiltrator meta. Like, I'm telling you right now, you better buy them, get them while they're hot. Like, I talked about this in streams a while ago and videos. I'm not kidding. Like, you are going to see infiltrators everywhere. You need them with helix gauntlets. They're super durable, and the biggest thing is, other than concealed position, which is going to be applicable for the incursors too, but they have the ability to block deep strikes and reserves within 12 inches. You get 3 units of these things, and you can basically block off the entire side of your board.
Yep.
You can block off those pesky strategic reserves that your opponent is almost certainly going to be using
For free.
for free. So everyone is going to use it. Everyone's going to do it. So you screen off your side of the board from your objectives. Most times you can, that 12-inch range is going to be enough to block them from coming in close to that objective on that side of the board. And they're just going to be, okay, well, I have to come in on my deployment zone anyway. So, I mean, okay, that was worth it. But the incursors also plays a role, especially in like trade style units where they can forward deploy. They do have a little bit more offensive war gear because they have the AP on their knives, and then they have the mines that are now free.
Yep.
So I talked about that in one of my videos recently, that the mine is a detriment to charging an opponent charging with a D3 mortal wounds for basically free. So, it is free now. I mean,
Yeah.
just roll a dice. They have
Yep.
mortal wounds. You
2
can
up.
take. So I mean, against some units, that's gonna be huge. Like, it's gonna be tough to wound them. Like Terminators, you could kill a Terminator on the way in. I mean,
Yeah.
that's gonna be massive against like a Deathwing.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love the infills for taking like home objectives. or objectives that are more on your side of the board. If you have like a corner deployment,
Hmm.
because they're going to screen everything out. And incursors are great for like putting those like essentially bait that they're it's like a bait trap,
Yep.
putting those in there in a trade style list here. Come and charge this unit and kill it, please. Oh, and by the way, have a few mortal wounds on the way in. It's essentially free damage, because they're going to die anyway. They're not, they're not super durable. They're there to force your opponent to make a decision that they may not want to make right out of the gate. Yeah, absolutely. And they got cheaper. That's the other thing. They got a lot cheaper. 100 points for infiltrators is stupid with a free helix, and the incursors are 90 points. You cannot go wrong running 2 to 3 units of these guys in every list.
Yeah.
Um,
The
just because we don't have to take troops doesn't mean that we shouldn't.
yeah, and the problem is the Phobos troops compete with the next unit, and the final unit in our list
Yep.
is the Primaris Crusader Squad. Take it away,
Yes.
Alex.
So, a longtime favorite of mine. I love Primaris Crusader squads. Obviously, they serve a completely different role than the uh, the Phobos troops do, because they're basically a combat unit. They already had free war gear from before, but they also went down in points. They're now 158 points for a 10-man unit. That's stupid. Like, yeah, like, a Terminator unit is only 165. These guys are 158. But this is 10 bodies with uphold. Neophytes are extremely efficient with
Yep.
uphold. It's like, cool, you're super high, high AP, super high damage shot coming into my Crusader squad. Awesome. Congratulations. I saved my 15-point model on a 5 up. Who cares? Okay. They are really quite spammable now. I've joked about a 100 Crusader list, which is more of a meme, I think, than a legit competitive list. But I don't think running a couple squads of these, or even running 4 troops, taking a squad of these as like an auxiliary combat unit, because they do have 2 power fists and a power sword and a pyre pistol, is out of the question. For 158 points, these guys are very versatile, very efficient, and can be pretty deadly too. It's a lot of chainsword attacks.
Yep.
So
So these guys, while they can't block innately reserves within that 12 inches, but if you have
they have a
50
bigger footprint.
if you
There's
have
10 of them.
50 of them on the board, no one's coming onto the board anyway, right?
No.
So it's kind of a fun meme, but I think this is also another Art of War. They've talked about it, and we've got a lot of questions about it recently. So got to give credit where credit is due, even though we've kind of talked about it too. Um, I think it might have legs to have a large quantity of bodies on the board.
Yeah.
Prime with the Primaris Crusader squad being the bulk of them, and you fill it in. Now, am I saying take 100 bodies? I think might be a little bit too much. 70 to 90 might be better, because then you could get some support pieces in there, like the Eradicators or Plasma, that type of thing. But flood the board. You're the next Imperial Guard player, that except you got more bodies and more wounds than they
And
do.
better bodies. Yeah.
Yep. So I think it might have some juice. Are you going to win top tables? I don't think so, but it's going to be a scary list for a lot of players to face, because
Hmm.
they're just not going to be able to kill enough of you.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And more importantly, it's a iconic Black Templar unit. What cannot go
Black
wrong.
Tide.
Black Tide, exactly. So, all right. So that about wraps it up for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let us know what you think down in the comments. Do you agree with our choices for this top 10? Or if not, what do you think should have been in here instead? So let us know down in the comments below. We'd love to hear your feedback on stuff like this. Also, check out our Patreon. We have a lot of great benefits for that, and we greatly appreciate all the support that our patrons give us. And then of course our Discord, a really super active community right now. With our Discord, so come check us out there to talk Templars and whatever else, around the meta that we are currently in. So that's all we have for you today. So until next time. Keep on crusading.